Hi, everyone. Welcome to Pinkness Podcast. I'm having Cedric here with me today. Hi, Cedric. How are you?
Hi, Nika. Hi, everyone. Doing pretty well. Thank you so much. How are you doing yourself?
Also well. You will definitely tell us more about yourself, but I'm just going to do a quick intro. A realistic optimist who loves our little tribe of humans, dreams of collective exploration, and bring constructive pessimism to keep institutions honest. I love this. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you very much.
Cedric, tell us a little bit more how you were as a child. Is there something that you remember being a child that already somehow paved the way towards where you are today?
Yes, totally. I think already as a kid, I was very trustful. Um, I was typically this child that would talk to any stranger, and so my parents were very afraid to have me out of sight for 10 seconds because I could just hold someone's hand and be like, "Yes, let me discover your house and the park next door." And I was always curious and looking for new friends and contacts of any age. So yeah, I think this really much paved the way, and it's partly due to the fact that I grew up in a church where friendships, were across all generations, right? So I had friends that were 70 years old, I had friends that were 10 years younger than me, and it's been a blessing.
Mm, That's really nice. And looking back, where do you see the seeds of realistic optimist philosophy showing up? Is it also something that you can point to the same answer?
Partly for sure. I think there is a lot of optimism in the way that I approach human relationships, and in general, I think that in a large city, most people are distrustful to the ones they do not know yet. Where I always like start giving benefit of the doubt, or I start thinking with positive intentions that like, okay, the person's for sure that they have good intentions in mind and they want to love and to please and to be cool. Um, but I think more than anything, I see it in my professional life where I do crazy stuff. Some would say like I'm very daring and then I'm optimistic. It's gonna work out. If we try hard enough, we might be amateurs, but it's okay. It's gonna work out. And yeah,
I think we're quite similar in this optimism towards people, at least, because I also consider myself a forever optimist. I'm constantly overshooting people
yeah,
with my optimism. People, I mean, I'm not gonna say usually because it would be unfair, but it's sometimes you get a hard landing when you figure out that people are maybe not as ideal as you thought they are, or as
Mm.
my mind told me like, yeah. But still, I think it's a good approach to life. Absolutely. Um, Tell us now a little bit more about your professional path. So sales, philosophy, and tech events, and something very interesting also in terms of AI lately. So we're going to talk about that also later. How does this work? How did you end up where you are today?
um, Asking questions. I think that this is kind of like the logical silver lining, like the red thread that you can follow along the course, right? When you're in sales, you're never satisfied with an answer that is close to a no. You try to always kind of turn it into a yes if it's pertinent. I was doing fundraising for Oxfam and the Red Cross when I was 17 years old, and basically anyone with like $30 on the bank account can give, 10 euros to Oxfam for the Red Cross and help someone that is even more in need than they are. Um, and and the way I approached it was always kind of like curious about, what matters to you? Is it people that need food or shelter, or is it disease, or is it kids, or is it education? And there are so many actions specifically for Oxfam that there is always something that will speak to you and touch your heart. And this curiosity mixed with, although it's the desire to dig deeper, I think works really well in sales and then works really well in philosophy. And both of them kind of fed each other, right? And then I used what I learned in philosophy, building trust, ethics, logic, um, discourse. And I use this as well in my sales practice. And then in tech events as well, right? Where I call myself your most extroverted geek because I love connecting nerds together. So it can be on a hackathon, on a conference, and very recently on the AI in Defense Summit.
So what was AI Independence Summit? Let's talk about this one a little bit. Tell us, what was it? It's connected with defense. I'm curious about this.
Yes. So it was Europe premier event on the use of AI in the military sector. So we approached dual use technology. Dual use means technology can be used both by civilians and the military. So that can be high level encryption, for instance. It can be drones. It can be cybersecurity or information warfare. Um, and this is an initiative from Jérôme Leclanche and his partner André from Seven Capital. And I've been working with Jérôme Leclanche for as long as I've been an entrepreneur. He really helped me set up the company and have my first 3 clients. And so it's been really much a pleasure to accompany Jérôme in that endeavor. The summits gathered a little over 450 participants, and we had more than 40 speakers and 15 exhibitors. And it's been a pleasure to bring together both some academics, industries, government officials, startups, investor. So we had a quite broad range of very relevant principles in the military industry.
And it was happening in Belgium,
Correct, in Brussels.
in
It was last
Brussels.
Monday. So it
Okay,
was on the
okay.
2nd of February, 2026.
You've mentioned Jerome, right? Is his name? Did I understand
Correct,
correctly? Yeah. So he was some kind of a mentor to you, or would you call him like that?
for sure. He's
Um,
both a client, a friend, and a mentor, I would say.
how important do you think it is? I mean, I think those people, those of us at least, who have people like Jerome in life, who we can consider either a mentor or tutor or a friend or helper or whatever you want to call it, particularly when we speak about entrepreneurship, how important do you think this is for somebody who's stepping onto the entrepreneurship route?
Like on a scale of 1 to 10, 12 maybe. It's like enormously important. And I've had a few, so I want to give a couple of shout outs. At the beginning of my career, I was with Ulysse Baguida, so on audiovisual technology and education startups. And I did my first pre-sales document, a couple pages of analysis for a client. And then had the Commons Hub. I'm with Xavier Daman and Leed Schefeld. And I've been as well with Hugo de Blau from InFlight. And all those people are in their 40s. They've done entrepreneurship for some 10 years. They already have, set values and knowledge of the industry and wisdom and patience that I did not build yet. And it's been
Yeah.
incredibly valuable to learn from those mentors, both with through their examples, but they also give me a lot of freedom to kind of act the way that I want to interpret it. And so I feel that I had both freedom, feedback, and love, and the ability to grow in my own way as well. And so that's just, yeah, I was very lucky.
Yeah, I think that if there is anybody who's thinking about either opening a company, starting a startup, or just going on their own venture, if they are listening, do find yourself a mentor or somebody who you can trust and who will help you with these first steps, because it can be really daunting at times and very challenging also at times. It's rewarding, but it can be challenging, and it's much easier if you have
Yeah,
somebody like this walking along.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. And I would even say find several, and preferably have your mentors pay you, in the sense that these way they'll be more demanding. They will ask for better quality. They'll be able to provide feedback with love, as a mentor does, but they will also have like skin in the game if you're doing your job correctly. And I
Yeah,
think this is the double hat that I gave my mentors that worked out really well for me.
I agree. Tell us now a little bit more. What do you do today? Commons Hub is something you already mentioned. You were also at North Star AGI. What do you do? What do these companies do, and what do you do in your life today?
So I love to combine a few hats that are mixing, meeting people and technology is really the two pillars that I have on my professional life. And so your most extroverted geek, I think is a title I will keep for as long as I breathe. Apart if I meet someone more extroverted than me in the industry, which hasn't occurred yet. And so what I do is a few roles, 1 to 2 days a week, in startups or in community building in tech. So I'm also a Stripe community builder. So once a month we do an event together for Stripe. Every 3 months we do a hackathon. Stripe is this massive online payment provider. So if you have a web shop, for instance, you can most likely just hook Stripe, and this allows payments in hundreds of different countries using, the national means of payments, cards, etc. With the Commons Up, it's a community and a venue in the center of Brussels. So we're right across the central station, just 1 minute by foot. And it's a place that we really want to turn into an incubator for communities. So we have both one floor that is co-working, very open co-working, and then the second floor is an event venue. And so if your business relies on community building, you can be a trainer, you can offer team buildings, or you can, for instance, build a community of company owners and uh, help them optimize the way they remunerate themselves, the way they pay themselves, like HR Mano is about to do. Then it's quite nice to have a foothold in the city where people can gather, right? And so that's what we're building in the Commons Hub. And now we have 20 plus communities. They use the space frequently and come back. And so it's a little mycelium of many communities. It's a super community, right? A community of communities. That's the Commons Hub. And I do that roughly 2 days a week. And then North Star was an initiative I was part of for 6 months, and I left them last December as the I call myself not the first North Star alumni, since the founder was like, "You will be proud you were at North Star. You'll be able to do like X North Star the same way you do X Google." So it's a very high drive, uh, high intensity group. It's a non-profit, it kind of turning into a startup at the moment that tries to bring robotics faster to Belgium and West Europe in general. And so they've been, yeah, we've been busy with hackathons. I think the greatest achievement of North Star while I was part of the initiative was the hackathon for kids, and it happened in 6 different cities in 8 venues. We brought together more than 100 kids and 40 volunteers, and we had tremendous feedback from the parents and the kids. They absolutely loved it. They were able to do a game in the span of an afternoon. It was children 8 to 12 years old.
This sounds really lovely. I didn't even know about this. It sounds
Yeah,
really, really lovely. But
it was so fun.
interesting enough, we've met on an events community. Let's put it like this. What is it about events that's drawing you there? And do you find some common ground with what you're doing or how you are as a person as well? Because I would say yes. Most of
Oh,
us are
totally.
at least a little bit, um, yeah, a little bit like this.
Yeah, totally. I think we as humans have a need for community and connection. Um, some of them realize that needs more than others. They understand, oh yeah, I do need, my 2 or 3 times a week meetup or, community engagement. And I know I need a lot of it. And so I try to have social interactions or attend communities or go to an event maybe twice a day, right? I'm very extroverted, so I need a lot of it. And some of the events are tech related, like the hackathons, some of them not at all, right? So at the Commons Hub, for instance, we have a potluck lunch. On Monday, it's just the members and we take decisions. So it's a little more formal and serious. And on Friday, it's just like a nice free lunch for anyone to attend, right? And so it's very just open community for people passing through Brussels or living in Brussels. Um, and then we even have moments where we meditate and we dance, and I think it's needed as well, right? Like don't just please your brain with a hackathon, but also sometimes please your soul, your inner peace.
And what is there something that actually surprised you most working events from corporate product launches to nonprofits? Is there something that you said, okay, I didn't know about this one?
Um, it's actually Uh, the one that surprised me, I find it actually easier to do events for corporate. It takes me less time because like nonprofits are budget constraints, and so you would think that they just give you what they have, maybe 150, 200 euros, and whatever happens, they're happy with it. But actually, they can be quite demanding and negotiating on some details that don't necessarily make sense. They might be, losing you and I more time than it actually saves money. With the corporates, they're just efficient. They like something to get done. They have the budget for it. They have clear expectation. And so I was quite surprised that actually it's because I learned from first the non-profits, and so going from non-profits to corporates was much easier than I would have expected. Because non-profits are actually harder in my experience.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree on that one. I mean, Financial constraints are always a challenge if you want to create a impactful event, and particularly if the people working for those not that nonprofit that do not understand the
Yes. Yeah.
limitations of the budget can be
Yes.
challenging. This can be really challenging. Tell me, you did so many things in your life and you worked for so many various companies. Is there any innovation or principle that you encountered in recent times that really shifted how you see the future?
Hmm. Let me think on that one. I guess I guess quite a few. I wouldn't say that I encountered that innovation on my working company time, but definitely the short form videos is something that has shifted my view on humanity and the future of consumption and media. Because I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't think that we'd be so hooked, by content and the ability to completely lose track of time, the same way you would do on a date, right? Like you look at the time and it's like 2 hours later than you would have expected. Well, now that happens as well, just scrolling on your phone, and um, it has made me slightly more aware and pessimistic, maybe towards the use of technology and towards the intentions of media. I already had my reservations when it comes to large platforms. To not cite any, but the overwhelming presence of ads and all the data capturing and mining that happens when we use those platforms. Um, so that has shifted a little bit my view of the future, and I'm like, wow, either we need to very drastically change the way we relate to media and create new platforms, or we'll be psychologically dependent on very large companies that are on another continent. And I see that as a huge risk.
And I can add, I think we already, I mean, maybe not you and me, but the majority already is psychologically very dependent on them because we now know, at least starting to understand the impact of social media that it has on children's lives, for example. We didn't have that 30 years ago, so the research is very fresh. But still, I can say that I think that the impact is definitely there, and it's not necessarily good. What about AI? I mean, I can call you an expert compared to myself at least. What is the future of AI, on your opinion? And I mean, in your opinion, and is it good? That's the most important question.
Uh,
Are
of
we going
course,
to be able to harness it into our own benefit or not really?
we already can, and I do think that it's easier to harness AI in a way that is beneficial to you and doesn't harm others than it is social media. Because social media very quickly, you harness it for your own benefit, and sure, you can capture maybe clients and all, but even if you convert 1, 2% of your audience, it's an enormous amount of time, eyeball time that it takes from others. Whereas AI is, you can see it a little bit like an extension of self. It's like you have a slightly longer arm or you have like a Swiss knife extra. If you configure it well, it can be super powerful. If you don't, it's a little bit like, you try to play with your Swiss knife and you end up losing more time than it saves you, right? I think AI is an enormous transformation in the way we use technology. I mean, if you look at internet, computers, or the office job, most of it is just about taking a bucket of information somewhere and then putting it somewhere else, right? Or you take that bucket of information and you mix it with another one, or you
Yeah,
slightly
you
change the wording or
amplify
the
it. Yeah,
expression.
yeah. Mm.
And so it's mostly transfer of knowledge, but at scale, right? Even sending an email, it's a transfer of knowledge. You update a database or you try to make a study on something, right? Is really information industry. AI allows to automate this, right? You can translate documents, you can turn a database into a text or a text into databases. And this is something that we haven't even started to touch the surface to how much it'll completely like overwhelmingly change everything we know about the information sector, little by little. Um, like I think 10 days ago we had the Moltbot, right? And this is the first local agents that keeps on doing tasks, and now we see those bots that start having social networks for themselves. They can create initiatives and Notion pages and websites, and so it's quite fun what the future will reserve. Is it sometimes going to be harmful? Oh yeah, I'm sure of it. Right? we're playing with fire, but without the discovery of fire, humans would never have the comfort that we have today, right? We wouldn't have heating and warm water and transportation. So we need to play with fire in order to get there.
What about those that claim, yeah, you said we're playing with fire. What about the unknown in this story? Are we really able to grasp the whole capacity of what is going on behind the scenes when we speak about AI, or is it just this is just absolutely out of our comprehension and out of our reach in terms of to understand what impact this could have if this goes out of hand in a way?
I would say a bit of both. There might be some dozen people that truly understands, the reach of AI. The way we use artificial intelligence, or we refer to artificial intelligence right now, is mostly like a black box, right? Like transformers, the large language models. You have inputs, brrr, the input is, processed, and then you have an output. And what happened in the middle, you have so many billions of parameters and weights that it's very hard to actually understand what has not impacts for like a one single prompt. And you just do this at scale and you do very, very massive testing. So we don't really understand what's under the hood, right? Um, we kind of know the architecture of how that works, but it doesn't mean we actually know the causality as much as we do in other
Mm.
sectors, right? When it comes to, I like what you say, like about like futures, different scenarios. And I think I was discussing this with a few friends a couple of weeks ago. We have when we think about the future, there's okay, is it very important or is it not important, right? Is one axis, and then is it quite predictable or is it very difficult to predict, like lots of different possible futures. And if it's quite difficult to predict but not so important, you just get this, talk about it, it's fine. If it's very predictable and not very important, we don't care very much. But if it's very unpredictable and very important, like for instance, the impact of AI on the economy or society or psychology, then what we do is a scenario-based approach. It's like, okay, if this, then that, if this, then that. And then we can have 4, 5, 10 different scenario, and you explore those scenario. Like, how do we get there? What does that mean for ourselves? How do we need to prepare ourselves in this case? And I do think that we should approach those scenario more often. Like, I wish we had some experiments and we would even ask children in classrooms, okay, think about one scenario with AI. How is the world evolving? And then everyone shares, their own scenario. This is how it happens in mind, and like this and this would happen. It would be a fantastic world. Or this would happen. It would be absolutely bad. But then we fix it this way and oop, it's utopia again. So I think science fiction is actually a huge inspiration, and it's this self-fulfilling prophecy. Like we do not know if we write science fiction and then we make it happen through technology, or we do technology and science fiction is just a way to peer into the future. So it's kind of like a chicken or the egg problem, but with the history of humankind.
Absolutely. Two things, and we are done. Can you imagine? Time really
Wow,
flies.
yeah, it flows fast.
You speak several languages, and you're also a public speaker. What's your go-to for connecting across different cultures or different tribes? So there must be some common language that you can somehow touch all those different things that you're working on and different people working in different industries.
Hmm. Um, I I think the question has a few layers. English really helps connecting with a bunch of people. So not everyone speaks it, but it's kind of like a common reference. I speak a bit of Dutch as well, and French is my mother tongue. And I would say that to connect with other people, just be curious. If you're not curious about someone, and you're in a room with many people, then it's fine to not discuss very long with that person. You make a quick compliment, make them feel good about their day, because everyone has something nice about themselves. And then you take a glass of water, an iced tea, an apple, whatever, and then you go talk to someone else. And if people feel that curiosity, they feel this enthusiasm, it's much easier to open up. It's much easier to make the conversation interesting, and and you also make them feel that their time is respected, right? Whether just making, small talk for small talk, um, it doesn't really, it doesn't really serve, I think, any type of exchange. At least not in my experience. I'm not a big fan of small talk. For some people, maybe it allows them to ease into discussion and then connect. And do you want to repeat the second element of the question? I feel like I've missed something.
No, you did it all right. What is actually the thing that, how do you actually, I mean, as you speak a lot of languages and everything, what is your go-to for connecting across cultures? And I think you did it already. I mean, you've answered the question. I think this connectivity and
Yeah,
asking questions, I think it's reaching out to people. I think it's a very important bit. I would also add, just don't be afraid to ask questions,
yeah, yeah,
because I
yeah.
think that, people, we are often assuming like, okay, maybe this person doesn't want to talk to me, or I don't know, maybe I don't know, I'm not important to this person, particularly when we are in a room with a lot of people. But I think just go and just ask questions, be curious. I think this is actually the go-to thing. That's definitely
Yeah,
something to
100%.
advise.
Like, yeah, 100%. I ask the most unhinged question. Sometimes I have met the person 5 minutes ago and I'm like, what is the one thing in 2025 if you didn't do, you would feel that your year was wasted, right? Or what is the one thing in 2026 you want to give more time to? Or, who is someone right now in your life that makes you feel seen and supported? And I ask those questions that, kind of bring a mirror to their face and they're like, oh, wow, I don't even think that for myself sometimes. You just wake up and go to work and live life and you forget to ask yourself the most important question. And so it's nice to have a little annoying philosopher knocking at your door and be like, wake up. What is important? You should tell that person that, they're very important to you because, it kind of feels nice hearing it as well. And so, some people are like, I've heard it and it happens maybe one time out of 20. Like, hey, we're not that close yet. Like, I don't want to engage on those questions, but it's okay. Thank you for asking. Most people just love that you actually pay attention and care and ask those difficult questions.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, wrapping up, one last question. What is that one truth about human innovation or institutional change you wish more leaders would debate out loud?
I've thought about that one a lot when you when you shouted the questions to me. It's the one that turned in my head the most because like I would be struggling to give just that one truth, right? I wish I had one. I wish I had one, but like I'll give one that I wish institutions and leaders kept in mind more. I think is just kindness and transparency. I think if you take decisions and you approach cooperation with just more kindness and transparency, um, it would, I would hope, lead to better outcomes. And an example that comes to mind quickly would be just the government in Brussels that we don't have for now 606 days, give or take. I think having more kindness, more transparency, and not just, hey, I have party affiliations and this, and I made a promise, and I should not ally with this because they have a different opinion on this or that topic. Just okay, just kindness, transparency. The people of Brussels need a government because otherwise we don't have a budget, and if we don't have a budget, we don't have, uh, there's hundreds of nonprofits that we usually support, and if those hundreds of nonprofits cannot work, then the system is broken because we relied on them for a series of critical services that the public services themselves don't provide. And so yeah, I wish that more leaders just were elected because of kindness and transparency, right? It's like, okay, you arrive in a place in a position of power, but my bank account can be open. People can look into what I do with my time because I'm not myself anymore. I'm a representative of the people, right? And you're here to fulfill a mission and you're here to serve. Because I think, yeah, to lead is to love and to love is to serve.
And let's not forget to mention that it costs nothing to be kind. So
Yeah,
that's also something that people should keep in mind. It really costs nothing and it brings so much. If you're just be kind. I agree with you. Cedric, thank you so much for being my guest. I think it was a lovely conversation. And I also I mean, time just flew, to be honest. I just checked the time
thank you
and I
so
was like,
much.
wow. Thank you once again and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, Nika. Thank you, everyone. And enjoy reading the Candace podcast. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.